Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. The more time passes and the war in Ukraine continues, the more I think that neither side in this conflict want peace. I don't think is neither the Russians nor the Americans want peace in Ukraine yet, because I think both think that they are still profiting from this war. Provoked, not provoked, the bottom line is they both make a profit, and they think eventually they will overpower the other side. And when that time comes, there will be no more Ukrainians and no more Ukraine. It is not Ukraine, it is the United States of America's not even interest. They're the interests who are in charge of a few Western countries. That's what it is. And they, as I said many times before, they use NATO as the military arm to fulfill their goals, which is taking over areas where they can come with their banking system, with their profits. That's why they're business. They want to make profits. They don't want to compete. They want to have a preferential treatment. So what happened here? Yesterday I made a video in which Merz, who is the new baboon chancellor of Germany, he's not a conservative, he's part of the globalists, claimed that Germany lifted its restriction in range restriction of the weapons Germany can provide Ukraine. That is, it opened the door. He said the decision was made, lifted the restriction of obviously sending the Taurus missiles, which I think have a range of about 500 kilometers, that's 300 miles. And now we have the Russians' reaction to that, which is obvious. It's obvious, but in the same time, I think it's ballless, which is there will be no peace if you guys provide long-range missiles to Ukraine. Well, the Germans are the last ones who agreed, click, click, to provide them. The Americans agreed, the Brits agreed, the French agreed, they sent them over there. And the Russians said what? This will not do anything but escalate the war. And I have the Kremlin's answer to this new, supposed to be decision, which actually is contradicted by the German vice chancellor. So the German vice chancellor shows up. You remember, Germany has a coalition government between the capitalists together with the communists, socialists. That's democracy for you. You vote for left, and the left has a coalition with the right. And you voted for the right, and it has a coalition with the left. So the opposite are both leading the country and in charge of you. That's democracy. Anyway, I'm not going to discuss. I discussed that in many of my videos in the past. So the German vice chancellor says no new deal on long-range weapons for Ukraine. So that means Merz lied, and Merz comes and says, the chancellor says, actually this decision was made months ago. Now it doesn't mean that the decision was months ago, 3 days ago, or will be made in 5 days ago. What are the consequences? It's not like say, oh no, that crime occurred 2 months ago. Forget about it. I don't go with a statute of limitation here. I don't go by that. A crime is a crime. Don't tell me, oh well, no, the rape occurred 20 years ago. No, I don't go by that. So let's start with discussing the Germans' interpretation of this and how they see it, the Russian reaction to this, and then the vice chancellors actually contradicting, basically calling the chancellor a liar. Why? Are they in the same party? The vice chancellor and the chancellor? Well, we're going to disclose that. All right, let's start with the first article. Ukrainska Pravda. Restrictions on striking deep into Russia lifted for Ukraine several months ago. But is it good? I mean, I don't care if it was 3 weeks ago or 7 months ago. It was just a little bit, just a tip. You know, it was no penetration. It was just a tip, a few pumps. It was not 3,000 pumps. It was 250. What's going on, buddy? That's basically what this guy says. For me, if I were a Russian, I would consider, as I said in many of my videos, any bullet you provide to my enemy to kill my people and my family automatically calls you a participant in a conflict. You are my enemy, your targets, your country is a legitimate target for me. That's how I would view it. And I think anyone would view it that way in real world. But somehow these guys provide weapons and they say, we're not participants. Now you try that. You try that and see in real life if that flies or not in front of a judge. All right? If someone's got the guns from the other guys to shoot to destroy you, are they participants? By any means they are, but somehow here they're not. Anyway, so let's read this article and then go further. This is the new leader of the face of the brave German Wehrmacht and Luftwaffe and SS and whatever you want. Look at this guy. I mean, I don't know. Let's move on. The German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, has clarified his statement on allowing Ukraine to strike deep into Russia with our weapons. Without it, there will be no killing in Russia. But hey, we provide them, but we're not involved. During a visit to Finland on Tuesday, noting that US, the UK, France and Germany had lifted restrictions on Ukraine's long-range strikes against Russia several months ago. So if they would say, well, US, UK, France and Germany committed a rape, I don't know, of several months ago, is that still acceptable? It's like, oh, it happens, man, all the time. This guy's logic or lack of. And I'm quoting, in this sense, I described yesterday in Berlin what has been happening for several months, Merz said. Merz said that his statement about lifting the range limit on Ukraine's use of Western weapons referred to a decision made some time ago. All right, okay, let's move on to the next one. Merz says decision to lifting range limits on Ukraine's Western weapons was made months ago. Like this, look at this guy. Now, I'm sorry, my friends, but I go by face, by statements, by actions. I don't want this guy to be my father. Do you want this to be your father? Let's say you show up at your, how do you call, school, whatever those are called, with your daddy. And that's your daddy. Would you show up with this guy? We say, well, I mean, come on, don't look at that way. Well, okay, I listen to the guy. This is the leader. That's the face of a leader right now, right there. My friends. Okay, so again, the same thing here, that he said that they were doing it. According to Merz, his statement referred to a policy shift that had been quietly in place for some time. So remember, quietly in place, secretly. And they didn't tell the German people. Why would they know? In a democracy, you don't want truth. I know some strategic things should not be revealed to the public, but shouldn't they have the right to know when the Russian ICBMs are going to pouring over German sky? Why? Oh, don't worry. The Bild, Die Zeit, and ARD will provide you with what you need to think about it. All you need to know. They hate our freedoms. The Russians attacked us unprovoked. So you will not have the intellectual weapons to think, why did the Russians strike? Why did they strike our cities? Or let's say military bases in Germany. Why did they drop an atomic bomb, a nuclear weapon in Germany? I know, unjustified. I think they hate our freedom. See, these guys were right all along, man. They just are crazy. Why? Because they don't understand, because they don't know in the first place that we, the Germans, provided missiles to strike Moscow, let's say. Or not only Moscow, any target in a foreign country. So actions have consequences. And if you tell me about Ukraine, Ukraine is not Germany. You associate yourself with Ukraine, so you're part of the fight. Therefore, actions have consequences. Well, let's see what the Russians are saying. Ukraine can strike deep inside Russia using German weapons, Merz. Berlin has not confirmed plans to provide long-range Taurus missiles to Kiev. Has not confirmed. That's what he said. Germany will no longer restrict Ukraine's ability to launch long-range strikes deep inside Russia, And this is what says these guys. Kiev should be able to effectively defend itself against Russia. Okay, with our weapons, right? So that means you kill Russians with our weapons. You're not involved. The chancellor said at the Europa Forum, we will do everything in our power to continue supporting Ukraine's military, but we're not involved. That means, Russians, please don't hit us. We can hit you through the Ukrainians, but you can't hit us. The chancellor said there are no longer any range restrictions on weapons supplied to Ukraine, and neither from the British, nor the French, nor from us, nor from the Americans. Okay, all right. This is what the Kremlin says. The Kremlin has called the German chancellor's latest statements dangerous. Why? And this is what Peskov said, the Kremlin spokesman. If such decisions have been made, they are contrary to our desire to find a political settlement, to all the efforts to resolve the conflict. You got it? So he says, if these decisions have been made, we will not settle this diplomatically. Well, let me ask Peskov, why only with these missiles? Why only now? The Americans provided ATACMS and others, right, that they were striking deep inside. HIMARS, they were striking inside Russia. Not in Donbass, inside Russia. HIMARS struck at least twice that I know of. The first one, they struck, remember, in Belgorod or Bryansk, which one was it? Let me just go, I usually make a confusion between two. In Belgorod. Remember when they used the HIMARS to destroy Belgorod is in Russia. It's not occupied territory, it's in Russia. They used the HIMARS to hit that POW exchange plane that was supposed to land and have the... Remember that? Like, 2 years ago? And they said, no, it was not us. And then, yeah, it was our HIMARS. I think it was HIMARS or Patriot. One of the two. But nevertheless, it was an American-made and provided... That's one. It was in Russia. The Russians should have declared war at that time, right there on the spot. They should have declared war a long time ago. But anyway, not to Ukraine. And then the next one was 2 days ago when, again, these guys used HIMARS to hit inside Kursk. Kursk is in Russia again. It's not an occupied territory. So you use your weapons to kill our people? What? And the Russians are only now? They use Storm Shadows to hit inside Crimea if you want. They use Scalp, the French version of Storm Shadows. And you tell me that only now we got upset if the Germans get involved? How about the other guys? It's like you have 4 people and they rape the same person, but because 3 of them were okay, but the 4th one, oh my God, the end of the line right here, man. The 4th one came over. What about the 3rd, the 2nd, the 1st? That's why I disagree with this statement. And the Russians use anything like the Ukrainians or the Americans to say, you know what, no more peace. I don't know, today is Tuesday, no more peace. We don't like that. Or I don't know, Putin wore the wrong, tie today. So no more peace. We don't like that one. They can find reason if they don't want to make peace or they want to make peace. In this case, I don't think they want. I think the Russians will say, we're going to continue and take territories. We're going to work out we're going to impose our conditions based on the realities on the front line. That's it. The Americans are trying to take over whatever is left of Ukraine, and the Russians says, no, you can't. You can't have troops over there. And these guys still want to have peacekeeping missions. NATO. That was one of the main reasons why the Russians entered Ukraine. No NATO in Ukraine. And these guys are telling me about peacekeeping troops after the hostilities cease. That means those guys legally will have troops over there. No. All right, let's see what kind of missiles are we talking about. New Voice of Ukraine. What is the longest range European missile? Why do you even care? Is it 3 meters long, the range? That's it. It's too much. Why? You kill my people. Does it matter? Does it matter from the get-go? Does it matter if it's 100 kilometers, 200, 300? There's people, our people, according to Russians, that are killed with the Western weapons. Does it matter? Or only when they're going to be able to hit the Kremlin? Then you're going to say, stay, we got the problem here? That's imbecilic to me. Is it? Germany, the UK, and France have lifted. Let's see what they have here. Experts say cruise missiles do not fly directly to the targets, but instead follow complex routes to bypass areas protected by air defense systems. For example, while the Storm Shadow or Scalp, the French missile has a maximum range of 560 kilometers. So that's about what? As I said, 300 miles. Planners must account for the additional distance traveled when the missile detours around defended zones. So that means, yeah, they have about 550 kilometers in straight line, but if you have to divide, you don't go that deep because you have to bob and weave, okay? That's what they say. So we should be okay. Oh, so it's not 560. All right, then we're good with that one. What I talk about? The publication noted that Germany's Taurus missile can also hit targets at a distance greater than 500 kilometers, comparable to the British French Storm Shadow and Scalp, but this is not the longest range among European cruise missiles. Analysts highlighted that France possesses an even more powerful missile, the MDCN Missile de Croisière Navale, also known as a Scalp Naval. It has a range exceeding 1,000 kilometers, 600 miles, carries a warhead weighing about 300 kilometers. That's about 1,000 pounds. However, the article emphasized the Scalp Naval is designed for naval use and is launched from vertical A-70 silver launchers, which are approximately 7 meters tall. Doesn't matter. So this they show you. So this is the map of Ukraine right here, right? This is the border, is Belarus. So they show you the right there, how far they go deep inside Russia. Moscow is right here, well within the well within this missile's capability, right there. And you tell me the Russians should be okay with that? What should they do? I mean, these guys can hit whatever they want. Look how deep, including this right here, where they have the where is it? This should be here, here. All right, they can go, deep as they want, my friends. And they tell me the Russians should be okay with that? I don't think so. So they have it that way. And they talk about the Tomahawks, missiles, but those are Americans. So remember, this is what they have. Next, let's see what the Russians are saying. The Russians already reacted to the German chancellor statement, the same one. There will be no peace, they say. So the possible decision. What do you mean the possible decision? Didn't these guys say it was made months ago? The decision, and didn't say that, oh, we already made it? Anyway. European countries to lifting supply to Ukraine contradicts Moscow's desire to reach a political settlement. That means no more peace. Now? How about the howitzers when they were sent? How about the F-16s when they were sent? How about the Abrams tank? How about the Challenger 2? How about the Leopard 2 tanks? No, nothing? And again, Kremlin reacts to the West lifting limits on long-range weapons for Ukraine. The decision runs counter to Moscow's effort to fight a peaceful settlement with Kiev. There you have it. And then we have this guy who contradicts. Actually, the decision has been made, ever. German Vice Chancellor says no new deal on long-range weapons for Ukraine. No new agreement exists. Yeah, but maybe this is old agreement, so you might be right. No new. Allowing Ukraine to launch long-range strikes on Russian territory, only on the designated areas, right? German Vice Chancellor Lars Klingbeil said during a press conference in Berlin, and I'm quoting, "As for range, I want to say clearly that there is no new, what about an old, agreement that goes beyond what we previous government had authorized." So they authorized this, right? I mean, if I go by this guy says, he's not denying it, but let's read. The Social Democratic Party politician. So Social Democrat, when you see these things, these are socialists, okay? These are, in my books, depends a little bit on the, how do you call it, the spectrum. They are communists. So this guy is the vice chancellor, where this beautiful lad is the chancellor. So this is a supposed to be capitalist, and this is a socialist. So these together are in charge of Germany. How do you think Germany will do? Because they have, obviously, as politics tell us, different political platforms. That is, we should give money to people who don't work. And the other guys say, no, we should not give money to those who don't work. So there's two opposite, seemingly, views on how you help the people who are less fortunate. That means, God just threw on people with fortunate, and some are more fortunate because God gave them fortune and others are not. Remember, we have that say in our, I think the Romans, I don't know if it was the Greeks as well, because the Romans copied most of what the Greeks did, the ancients. How is that? The fortune favors the brave. You remember what it is? That means you're lucky. Lucky always favors the strong, the daring. Why? Because while you go, you open up more opportunities. If you stay over there and wait for life to hit you and take a shit on you, you don't open anything. No fortune for you. That's why the less fortunate are, no, you go over there showing life, you fight, you act upon whatever life gives you. That's, you open opportunities. If you stay in your basement with a mask on all day and on the toilet in the basement over there and taking shits all day, what do you expect? Life to come and give you fortune? That is chance? That is luck? Opportunity? So remember, fortune favors the brave. The ones who act, who do something with courage. The bold, they say. The bolds. All right, so this guy from the socialist is partnered with the guys with the capitalists. How? Because the big threat of the globalists were the real party on the right, Alternative for Deutschland. They had to stay away from power. That means there is some power somewhere. So as for a range, I want to pop. So what does it mean? There is no longer restrictions on long, Merz said. Will change the fundamental. Dictator responded. They say, pop, quite dangerous if they lift that. So what did he say? So actually, this guy contradicts or not? As for range, I want to say clearly that there is no new agreement. But what was the old one? Is this the old one and you're talking about a new one to the old one? Then you're right. That goes beyond what the previous government has authorized. So they authorized this, but it's nothing that's new. What's new? Let's say you go and buy a shoe from the store. Is that a new shoe? It advertises the latest kind of shoe. But it's not a new shoe because it was probably manufactured, 3 weeks ago. So it's old shoe. But you go to another company that has this a new shoe and was manufactured yesterday. So this is new and the other one is old, even though they advertise as being the new. So when they say new and old, what do you mean the new, there's no new agreement? New to the old? What was the old? He's not mentioning the old. Anyway, is the globalists, my friends, is not these guys who are wanting the war to continue. Why? They have profits to make. And the Russians, they have their interest as well. If the Russians will be defeated and will be pushed back, and they will have, the guys are coming for their territory and their lives and their culture and their traditions and whatever they have, I guarantee you the Russians will speak differently, different language. But now they think, oh, we're still doing okay. No peace. They don't want peace. Either side doesn't want peace. Thank you very much for being with me again today. For now, stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.